lot smarter than me about 40 years ago, and then we just talk. So I'm going to start with that statement. In the present crisis, government is not the solution to the problem. Government is the problem. Those words were uttered by President Ronald Reagan during his initial inauguration speech. He went on to say that from time to time, and I'm going to summarize, from time to time, we forget that we're supposed to be engaged in self-rule in this country. I'm sorry. No, you're fine. And we hand over our liberties and our freedoms to a group of elites because we believe they can better tell us how to live than we can tell ourselves. And sometimes we need to get jerked into reality and realize that that is not a good idea. No time in the history of the state of Indiana is it more evident that in this present crisis, government is not the solution to the problem, government is the problem, than today in Indiana. And folks, we don't have just one crisis. Before we had the health crisis of this virus, we were told that there was an opioid crisis. You know what? There's still an opioid crisis. Yeah. Now we have a public health crisis, especially in our nursing homes and long-term care facilities, where the vast majority of the people who have died from this virus lived. Oh, yeah. We have an economic crisis that is unparalleled in my lifetime. We have an education crisis. And if you don't think we have an education crisis, let me just tell you, in my opinion, our children are being used as pawns in a chess game between government and the Indiana State Teachers Association, and it's time it stopped. Education is not a political issue. Our children are the single most important natural resource in Indiana. It's not corn, it's not soybeans, it's not coal, it's our kids. And we are doing them a disservice because we are letting big government run the show. We need to get education back in the hands of local school boards, local school districts, parent-teacher associations. We need to get education local again. It is a crisis of government when a governor cannot get along with the state superintendent of public instruction who was elected by the people. So he goes to the General Assembly and says, I want this position converted from an elected position to one I can appoint so I can get them to do what I want. That's a crisis, folks, and we need to fix it. If you have kids, how your child is educated should be your choice, not theirs. We have a financial crisis in our government. There have been, over the past 3.5 years, numerous instances of fraud and misuse of taxpayer money. And when those things are brought to light, The governor's administration say the governor wasn't involved in that. The governor didn't know about that. Who's running the show? If he's not involved, who is? The job of the governor is outlined in the state constitution, and he is supposed to be responsible for overseeing the 53 or 54 agencies, which boggles my mind. Not only is it big government, but they brag about it. We have over 50 state agencies. And now he wants to add more members to his cabinet. He wants to add more bureaucratic overhead into the state. And yes, we absolutely need to do a better job with race relations, gender relations, sexual orientation relations, age discrimination. All those things are real. And we need to do a better job. But it is completely and utterly dismissive and arrogant to say, I've been in charge for 3.5 years, and if you'll reelect me, I'm going to add more bureaucratic overhead to try to fix this problem I've ignored for the last 3.5 years. That's just wrong. That's pandering to you because he doesn't think you're smart enough to look and go, if you thought it was really a problem, why didn't you fix it before? We have a state government today that spends Indiana taxpayer money on corporations outside this state. When DCS had problems and they wanted to figure out how to fix the Department of Child Services, they brought in a consulting company from Georgia and paid them over $1 million. Are you telling me there's no one within the state of Indiana who can fix our own problems? And if we need somebody from Georgia to come in and tell the governor how to fix what he is supposed to be in charge of, maybe we need to get somebody from Georgia to come to be governor.
Yeah.
I was being sarcastic.
Hey, it's true.
We need to put government back in its place. Better government, not bigger government. He stole that from me. We need to start going in and looking at what's going on, the money that's spent, how it's spent, where it's spent, and as my wife tells me, we've got to cut back a little bit.
Thank you.
People say all the time, you want to do away with the individual income tax in Indiana? How will we pay for things? It's not the only tax. And there are 9 other states in the United States of America who have no individual income tax, and they're getting along okay.
Yep. Look at Texas.
But what about you want to get rid of the personal property tax on your individual, your personal residence? How will we pay for schools? 60% of the current state budget is allocated for education. And we collect property taxes on top of that. But not all the property taxes are personal property taxes on your primary residence. Some of that is business, corporate. I'm just talking about eliminating the personal property tax on your primary residence, because last time I checked, if you have to pay for the right to keep it, which is what property taxes are, right? Because if you don't pay your property taxes, what do? They take your land. It's called asset forfeiture, and it's wrong. I believe that it is wrong, and we need to eliminate it. There are too many Hoosiers today who built their forever home 20, 25, 30 years ago, raised their kids. Their kids go off to college. They get ready to retire, and they go and they find out, oh crap, we're going to have to sell our home and downsize because we can't afford to pay our property taxes on a fixed income. Now some of you might say, well, that's their own fault. No, that's the government's fault because we shouldn't have to pay property taxes on our primary residence. And when people say, well, how are you going to pay for the roads? Let's trim some of the fat. There's an awful lot of money going to somebody that probably doesn't need it. And I'm not talking about people on public assistance. I'm talking about corporations that are bleeding tax revenue from the state because they get a vendor contract and they bid way down here. And once they win the contract, that's when the change requests start going in. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't realize you also wanted this to work, so now you're going to have to let us do all these things, and that's going to make it so that one day you've got a $30 million contract. The next thing you know, 4 years later, it's at $180 million. They still haven't delivered the product that they were supposed to deliver. And in many cases, they're delivering an existing product, getting paid for that, while they're jacking it up over here. And it goes on all throughout the state. I am against, personally, statewide standardized testing. We pay $45 million every 3 years for statewide standardized testing. 2 years ago, we didn't use it because after they administered the test, they realized that the scores didn't look right. So we're not going to use the scores. But we paid the $15 million. This year, I don't know if you heard, there's a pandemic. So they sent the kids home for e-learning at the end of the school year, which means they didn't do iLearn. But we paid the $15 million. Oh, we pay our bill. Didn't you know we have a AAA credit rating in Indiana? We pay our bills. We've got a $2 billion, or we had, a $2 billion surplus. Do you know that President Calvin Coolidge once said, if you collect more taxes than what you need, it's robbery. Now, I may have been dreaming, but I believe a few years ago there was a governor named Daniels who actually sent checks back to us because they collected too much taxes from us. Does anybody else remember that? I don't see Eric Holcomb offering to send you a check, but he put you out of work, closed your business, but he'll let the federal government send you some money. Because let's be honest, over 900,000 people have been put into unemployment since March 1st, and while we flattened the curve to make sure that the health systems weren't overburdened, we completely overburdened an unemployment insurance system that is obsolete, antiquated, understaffed, and could not deliver on its promise to the people of Indiana. And did they think about that before they shut everything down? No, because they're still getting paid.
That's right.
With your money. And I believe that's wrong. We can fix what's wrong in Indiana, and they'll tell you, oh no, everything's great. Indiana, we're doing great. We're so much better than Illinois. Abdul will tell you that's a really low bar right there, brother. Anytime somebody asks me, are you for building a wall? I go, yeah, just the other side of the wall, Bash, baby. We are in crisis in Indiana. To act like we're not is dismissive of Hoosiers. Yeah, there are plenty of people who are able to stay home, work from home, still get paid, pay their bills, and that's fine. But not everybody was afforded that opportunity. And I believe it is section 23 of Article 1 of the Indiana State Constitution. It says that the General Assembly shall, and I'm going to summarize, I can't remember the exact words, I apologize. The Indiana General Assembly will not afford privileges or benefits to a citizen or group of citizens unless it is afforded to all citizens of the state of Indiana.
Exactly.
Which means the minute you utter the phrase essential and non-essential, I believe you're violating that section of the Indiana State Constitution. All Hoosiers are essential. And you cannot attack a crisis, you cannot do anything as government unless you do it by the words of the documents that limit your power. Whether that's the federal constitution, the state constitution. And looking at people and saying some businesses provide the necessities of life and others do not shows you exactly what they think of average Hoosiers. Because every business within the state of Indiana provides the necessities of life to the people who work there and depend on that business for their living and to be able to feed their children and pay their bills, and to say anything else is completely and utterly dismissive.
That's right.
It is.
I am just as important as you. None of us are quite as important as Abdul, but that's because he is Superman. But it is extremely important that we understand government's job is not to protect us from ourselves.
That's right.
In the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson said, he talked about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then he said something very important, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Not to determine who's essential and who is not. Not to determine which businesses should have to do curbside service and which businesses are safe to walk through. Not to determine where your kids go to school. It's not government's job. That's your job. And I'm sorry, I believe that if you don't want to take care of yourself, that's on you. That's not on me.
Exactly.
And the only reason when people, for example, let's take health insurance. By the way, not only am I against mask mandates, I'm against vaccine mandates. I'm against mandating health insurance. And for those of you who really want to be shocked, I'm against mandatory seatbelt laws. Because all of those things are designed to protect the profits of large corporate entities. It's got nothing to do with you. Because if they cared about your health, they would have outlawed cigarettes before I started smoking in 1982. I don't smoke anymore. You're waiting on me to say I don't smoke any less either, aren't you? But it's not about public health. If it were about public health, 640,000 people a year die from heart disease. They'd have closed down the McDonald's so I couldn't buy a Big Mac.
That's right.
They don't care about your health. They care about somebody's profits. The profits of people who fund their campaigns.
That's right.
And so you don't have to worry about me because they're not going to give me any of their money because I talk like this. Which means I'm going to ask you for your money. Sam, am I good? There you go. Campaign manager. Don't forget to ask for money. Right? I need your support. I need your financial support because I don't get money from special interests, political action committees that hide donations from large corporate entities. Because that's the way what better way to launder money than to write the laws that make the money laundering legal?
Exactly.
What a load. So I need your financial support, obviously. But more importantly, I need your grassroots campaigning skills. I need you to tell 10 people, hey, Rainwater might be clinically insane, but he makes some sense. And you know what? He absolutely understands what's going on in the average Hoosier household. I'm going to tell you something you probably don't know. I had a really good job. I was making good money, working for a health system in the state of Indiana. And right before the pandemic shut down, they reorganized. They got rid of my boss's boss, my boss, and then they got rid of me. And for the last 6 months, I've been paying my bills driving Uber and Lyft, baby, because that's what we do in Indiana. We go out and do what we have to do to get the job done. So when people compare me to the two big government guys, because they're both the same, they're two sides of the same Twix bar. They're for big government. And when somebody tries to compare me, you can tell them, oh no, Rainwater's broke. Rainwater's not a venture capitalist, and he certainly doesn't have $8 million in his campaign fund. He's just tired of the BS, and he wants to do the right thing and get us back on the right track. Folks, in modern politics, I got no business being here. Which is why I can say with absolute certainty, a vote for Rainwater is a vote for all of us, not them. In the 14th Amendment, James Madison takes life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and adds property to it. And so I've taken that and I've added my own little twist to the end of it. And I'm going to close with this. I believe in life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness as defined by you, not them. Thank you, folks.
How about that guy? I just want to again once thank Brett and Shauna Reinhardt for graciously allowing us to use their facility today. We certainly appreciate it. As John mentioned, they're not doing weddings right now.